designed, sophisticated, a buying experience that screams quality, they're going to judge my product in the same way, right? So if your buying experience isn't at least as great as your product quality, you're going to lose.
The Industrial Sage Executive Series, sharing the stories behind game-changing executives, their organizations, and insights into today's industry challenges.
Hey, so thank you for joining me today on Industrial Sage on our executive series. Today, I have Chris Beaudin, who is the Director of Marketing for Atlatl Software, calling us in from South Carolina in Charleston area. How are you?
Good. How's everyone over there?
Doing really well. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today has been a great day. We've talked to a lot of companies, and I'm excited to talk about you guys. You guys have actually a pretty cool product. For those who aren't familiar with you, can you tell me a little bit about who you guys are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So at Atlatl, what we try and do is help our customers bring their products to life on screen. We no longer can fight through the retail battle of going to a store, shopping showrooms. We want to spend time where it's convenient to us, which is on our devices or on our laptops. And as we're looking for products, we need to experience them digitally. And so what we help companies do is, how do they present that product visually, where you can visualize it in 3D, you can actually configure the options, and really take that all the way to a purchase or to a salesperson who can help you. And so we are the conduit for that. We're a visualization platform, and we help companies all the way from kind of consumer goods to more of your traditional manufacturers do that.
Excellent. So very cool. So I definitely can see a lot of applications from that, especially now, as you mentioned, some of the digital aspect, the way that we buy has completely changed. Whether it's B2C or B2B, you're starting to see those lines kind of converge, where that expectation to buy a B2B product is the same, or as it should be, for B2C. But we'll get more on this later. So before we completely go down there, I just want to get a sense of you, Chris. I want to get a sense of sort of your journey from your career path. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I like to say I had the perfect recipe for a marketer. I had a father who was very business minded, a mom who was very creative, and the output of that is someone who is looks forward strategically and loves marketing. And I used that after attending James Madison University. Went to did some consumer packaged goods, some ad sales, and for the last 10 years before I joined Atlatl, I actually worked for a leading provider to the home goods space. We were a manufacturer, so I experienced it firsthand, working inside manufacturing, the challenges, but also the opportunities for those that create great experiences and sell to the market. Even though we were B2B, I always felt like B2B2C was really who we were. And so that's how we went to market. And it was all about, how do we provide them with a brand they can be confident around and products they feel confident in buying. And so that's kind of been my path. And that brought me to Atlatl, which is, okay, now cool, I get to sit on the other side of the table and do that for a lot of companies, not just my own.
Excellent. So, all right, so when you were working for the manufacturer, you're doing home goods manufacturing, what was your role there? Were you doing marketing or was it other things?
A lot of roles. I started in inside sales, so literally talking with a number of Home Depot stores and working with their in-store personnel, seeing how we can help, provide a better experience in selling our products. After some sales management, then really got back into where I was always aimed, which was marketing. And so it was brand management, eventually strategic marketing, which is really where I found my sweet spot and where I enjoyed my time there, because it was really focused on all those things I touched on. How do we create great experiences? What are the technologies to do that? How do we think innovatively about process? How do we put all these things together that end up bettering not only our position, but really provide a frictionless path to a purchase for a customer?
Absolutely. That's there's been a lot of change, obviously, over the last several years on that, and as you've kind of progressed in your career path, what are some of those what are maybe some of those milestone moments that you've had where obviously going from that manufacturer now, director of marketing, but at Atlatl, I will get it right, I promise you. I want to find out the reasoning of the name behind. We'll get into that here in a little bit.
Sure.
But yeah, what were some of those milestone moments?
Yeah, I think there's probably three that I always, as I talk to people and try to mentor, those coming up. There's three things that I always carry with me. One is I joined Atlatl coming off of one of the low points in the recession too. So what I took away from that is, even though I was successful at my previous role before American Woodmark, the downturn hit everyone.
Yeah.
And so how do you learn from that? How do you grow out of it? And so understanding how you emerge from the troughs of life, I guess, understanding what it takes to get out of that, what people respond to, but also how do you continue to find ways to progress? And so that was a key milestone for me, is bouncing back from, I was a young man who was just married and owned a home, and all of a sudden I was a part of a downsize and then joining a company in the home goods space in the middle of a downturn, right? But what I was able to watch happen is our stock price at American Woodmark go from $14 a share to 140 at one point.
Wow.
And witnessing that growth, there's two things. One, I wish I had more stock in those early days.
Yeah.
Two was also just, it really comes back to, we were focused on the customer very early on during that downturn. We said, what do we need to protect to emerge out of this better than everyone else? And that mindset of being customer focused, certainly we hear a lot about it today.
Yeah.
10 years ago, you didn't.
Yeah.
And so I think that is one major milestone, is having that come into play. And really the other was towards the end of my tenure with Woodmark, which was, how do you find an innovative way to do something no one else was doing? And a project that I was able to kind of create and then lead was, how do you sell direct to consumer through technology? How do you, find new ways to go to market? How do you find things that no one else is doing and bring those to life? And so that mindset of finding new ways certainly was something that I kind of like to hang my hat on and challenge others to do as well.
Finding new ways. I'm going to write that down. I really like that. I think that's, I love that. I love that mantra. All right, so let's jump forward a little bit now. So I'm curious. I just got to ask the name. What's behind the name?
So I didn't pick it, but I do like what it stands for. So an Atlatl is actually a real tool. So our ancestors used it to hunt. So an Atlatl is essentially, you think of the modern day equivalent as like the thing that launches a tennis ball for dogs. So it was a tool that would launch a spear when our ancestors were hunting. The story behind it, though, is it was an innovation that created leverage for greater speed and accuracy. So as we, came to market, really that was the intuition behind it, is we are a tool that uses visualization as leverage to create greater speed and accuracy in the buying experience. And there's a lot of ways I could talk about how we do that, but that's kind of what the name stands for.
That's awesome. That's a great story, and now I understand the name,
Yep.
and it totally makes sense. That's a great move. So, just getting an understanding of the business a little bit more. Like, how long have you guys been, around? You guys been around for decades, or is what's the history there?
Atlatl's been around since about 2013.
Okay.
Actually born out of a manufacturer.
Okay.
And I think I mentioned earlier, really spent some time in the CPQ side.
Mm-hmm.
And CPQ is a technology for manufacturers. It's about configuring, pricing, and quoting. We added a V to the front of that for visualization, for visually configuring, pricing, and quoting. But I think as we've evolved, what we've seen in the market is really the need is who can provide that visual front end. And so as a company, that's what we're really focused on. What we really provide is visual solutions. And so that visualization doesn't just live inside a CPQ anymore, it stands alone. And so we provide visualization as a standalone visualizer, visual configurator that you can put on a website, one that can be tied into a commerce platform, or one that can still be put into a CPQ platform, to an ERP, and maybe even just to a CRM. There's a lot of opportunities where we can integrate, share the data, and create more of a holistic kind of total commerce experience.
It sounds super cool. Obviously you've been in the space for a while. What are some of the big challenges that, the industry is facing from your perspective?
Yeah, we talk about these a lot, right? Because for us, it's all about the speed of our sales process.
Yeah.
It's those roadblocks. And I live this internally, in my last role, being inside the manufacturer. I think the biggest thing is, I think there's two things kind of happening. One is some companies moved early and they have this fatigue of software. What software didn't work and what legacy that has in future software purchases, and overcoming that, showing why we can be a great partner for them. But I think much more of the challenge with many more companies is that they haven't done this before. And so this is new to them, and there's that hesitation around innovation. Are we ready? Is this something we should be doing? We know we can only do so much. Where do we put our chips? And at the end of the day, we always argue, look, whether you're fearful of the next recession or downturn, or you think things are going great, why should we spend this kind of money? The answer to us is if you can gain efficiency and improve your customer experience in either scenario, you're going to win. And that's what we help you do, is a more efficient way to sell, but a better customer experience.
So kind of circling back when you're talking about how you felt, you thought that when in your previous role, that when you guys were able to take that share price, I think you said it was like $14 a share and go up to 100, that it was really focusing on that customer. And at that point, that was just not really a big thing.
Yep.
Yes, you're hearing about that a ton. And I keep hearing about not just customer experience, but or customer focused rather, but being customer obsessed, that being, you're hearing that, a lot. How are you guys, obviously that seems like it's a big focus around the product behind there. Talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and I think to be truly customer focused and customer obsessed, it is holistic. I think where we come into it is, you don't have a customer if you don't sell effectively. And to sell effectively, really, you need to stop selling. It's a bold statement I've tried to make for this year, which is if you can stop selling but empower your customers to buy, you will win. And I think that's a key that they have to kind of mentally kind of wrap their brain around a little bit, because it's so different. But really, it's kind of common sense. People want to buy. If you give them the tools and are there when they need you, you're going to win. And so I think that's what it's about. We can help them do that. Everyone's in a better position. When it comes to experience as a whole, and I've been writing a lot about kind of visual commerce and the experience economy and how all these things tie together. At the end of the day, to me, I mentioned earlier, there's always a better way, right?
Yeah.
I think, getting a bit macro for a minute, but once the web came about and kind of this democratization of information, then you added social media, and now all of a sudden we have this network at scale to bounce things off of. It changed the paradigm where the real kind of social currency is experience.
Yeah.
It's not just about, the product I have. It's about, I bought it in this really cool way, or I did this really cool thing with it. It's about the experience, about the way we use things, the journey we take. And so when it comes to visualization, the way we play with that is, this is part of it. People can buy a foam mattress anywhere, but they want to tell you how they bought it from a Casper, because it's different, it's new, it's something that many other people haven't done yet. So that's that paradigm shift that we all have to kind of, okay, well, I'm B2B. Yeah, it still relates because we're all consumers and people want to buy this way now.
That's awesome. So, all right, I really like the phrase that you said, and I hope I wrote it down right, because I'm going to steal it. I'm just letting you know. Sure. You said, in order to sell better, stop selling. Was that the gist? Maybe you probably might have said it a little bit better.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it's all about buying. How do you empower customers to buy? It's if you can stop selling to them, they're going to appreciate it, and they're not going away. You're not going to lose them, but give them an opportunity to buy in a way that they want to buy, and they'll surprise you.
No, it's so true. Yeah, that's a hard shift, because for years that was we're the better, here's the feature product. Like I just come on, man. Like I'm just going to show you. And it's no, And you mentioned we're inundated with. The information age, we're absolutely inundated with us. And I think it's super interesting. There were stats talking about years. Oh, the average consumer is interrupted by with 2,000 interruptions a day, or just disruptive marketing or what have you. And we're going to flip it around on its head. And now it's like, when they're ready, like they're going to come looking for it, but they don't want you hounded.
And what's interesting, you actually will sell more by not selling, because what happens is when people are sold to, they feel like they're being sold to, so they don't buy as much. They buy something that they feel like, okay, well, I didn't get sold on that. Instead, when people are buying, they choose what they want. They end up buying more. They choose options that maybe they wouldn't have been sold, because maybe they weren't even presented it because they were too afraid, the salesperson was, that they would lose a sale. We used to talk about this a lot when I spent time in the home goods space, because a lot of times people, when they're doing a kitchen remodel, for example, will always have remorse that they should have spent more during that project. And I should have added that, because they were so worried about the budget they were being sold rather than the experience they were going to have of this remodel at the end.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Wow, it's very insightful. That's I love that. We'll make a little thing out of that. In order to sell better, stop selling. And then I love the whole, obviously, the social experience piece. That's super valuable. I can see a lot of different applications there. And as a way to think about, to sort of unpack that experience piece, and put it in digital forms and whatnot. So That's super very cool. So the last question I was going to ask, I think you kind of already answered it, and that was just, how are you guys, positioning yourself to stay ahead of the pack? And it sounds like that's really the whole mantra and the whole vision. Like you guys, that's the vision from the beginning, is that innovative piece, saying, hey, let's do it differently.
Yeah, and I'd argue, look, everyone's going to say they have a great product, right? And I even heard this from a customer today on the phone. He said, look, I totally get it. If I don't have a really well thought out, well designed, sophisticated, a buying experience that screams quality, they're going to judge my product in the same way, right? Yeah. So if your buying experience isn't at least as great as your product quality, you're going to lose. You have to put a lot of effort today into how you present your product, how you sell your product, but really how you're creating a path to purchase, how are you creating a path to letting that person buy it, and that reflects on the quality of your product. The entire experience is reflective in there. So that's what we see coming up, is how do we be a part of that, whether you're trying to create differentiation or whether you're a market leader, but you have to maintain, because people are going to be coming.
Yeah.
Digital upstarts, digital natives are coming in every industry. You need to be playing in that game, or you're going to be losing out to a streaming service when you used to sell DVDs.
Yeah, exactly. We've heard of those companies before.
Right.
It's interesting. It's kind of funny. I liken it to the traditional retail experience. Let's say you go to a Walmart, or pick whatever your big box retailer, and you pull up and there's potholes in the pavement, and the lights are like flickering, and the T on the Walmart's like falling off, and paint's chipping. I mean, that experience, when you look at it, you're just kind of like, that's exactly what you're talking about there. 100%.
Yeah, experience is holistic, and obviously we play in a significant part of that. But really, I think companies need to address, okay, what does my start to finish experience look like for a customer, and how do I improve every element?
Yeah, that's it. Simple.
Yeah,
that's
really
awesome. Easy. So, so I think that kind of wraps up our interview. There's some, just for me, a lot of great takeaways. And so, for companies that would want to learn more about you guys, obviously, I'm sure you have a website. I'm guessing.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. What's the domain? Where could people find you?
Yeah, come visit us at atlatlsoftware.com, ATL software. And we can chat directly with you there. I'll probably be online. You can ask me questions if you like.
Excellent. All about that customer experience. When people are ready, they want to ask questions, they can start chatting away, huh?
Perfect. Yep.
Excellent. Well, Chris, I really thank you for the time. I've learned a lot. I've really enjoyed our discussion. Again, a lot of fascinating takeaways. But we'll make sure that we're going to push this out, and everyone's going to be all excited. They're going to come flooding, wanting to learn more about you. And again, just thank you for the time.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
All right, excellent.
Thanks.
So great, another great episode. Listen, I'm just gonna a really, really simple recap on there, and I'm gonna read it because I don't want to botch up the things. But my big takeaway is, in order to sell better, stop selling. It's all this whole the customer experience piece. It's this, and we've talked about it a lot here. It's really, how do you create a buying journey that is with the least amount of friction as possible. How do you present your content and your experience in a way that people want to buy? And if you're hounding them, and that traditional thing just doesn't work anymore, and we're, as we're moving. Everything's going all digital. Be thinking about how you can do that. So, be sure to check out these guys at Atlatl. You can check them out online. We'll put the links in the show notes. If you're listening on any of the podcasts, there the links are in the articles with the video, and you can check them out. So that's all I got for you today. Thank you so much for watching or listening. I'm Danny, and I'm tired. It's been a long day. And I'll be back with you next week with another episode of IndustrialSage. Thanks for watching. Bye.
IndustrialSage is an open platform where companies can showcase their expertise and solutions to a captive audience of industrial professionals. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and while you're there, please leave us a review. Want us to tell your story? Go to IndustrialSage.com. This week's episode was produced by Rika Wiersma, filming by Donovan Jones, editing by Rika Wiersma, music composed by Oliver Michael, and executive producers Danny Gonzalez and David Karen. This is the IndustrialSage Executive Series.